Welcome to Behind the Curtain Finance. My name is Thomas Manetta. We have an extra special guest today, someone that I'm really excited to have a conversation with. Eden Ovadia is the CEO and founder of FINNY, which is an organic growth engine for advisors who would like to build their business in a way that doesn't involve purchasing clients or referral network or buying practices. They're really interested in building organically. And so really thrilled to have you, Eden. Thank you for taking the time. Why don't you start us off by letting everyone know the story, the origin story of FINNY, and then can you touch on some of the new features that you've added, because I think that will lead into a really nice conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. You've done such a great job explaining what we do, but high level, so FINNY was set out to help the independent advisor build their own growth engine. And so the idea is there's all this activity going on in the financial advisory space. All this money is being poured in from the world of private equity, and all this attention is being given to inorganic growth, so growth through acquiring an M&A. But all this money then comes with expectations, and there's all these growth expectations for advisors that we're seeing in the market. And I came from the world actually originally of private equity. Before that, I came from the world of tech. But around 2022, when the market took a turn for the first time in a very long time, and all of a sudden, a lot of these advisors were looking at their books of business, and they had realized that, market growth was not deterministic and guaranteed. And just because the market was doing so well if you actually stripped out market growth, a lot of books we were seeing were actually flatlining or declining. And so it felt like at that time, the industry had taken a step back and said, hey, we have an organic growth problem. And so all this attention has been just poured into organic growth without any great solutions. And so around that time, large language models were becoming mainstream. I had a degree in machine learning, and I thought, hey, let's actually combine all these things together and build a tool that'll give the power back to the advisors to build these engines and to actually go about and prospect and find new clients they'll actually get along with without all the really manual and inefficient work that typically goes into prospecting. And so at a high level, the way that FINNY works is kind of three broad categories of things we can help advisors do. It's a platform, so advisors can log in, and we have at first a database of about 300 million prospects. So it's nearly everyone in North America over the age of 18. And we're tracking things like money in motion events, life events, where they live, demographics, educational background, professional background, basically in the least creepy way possible. Any information that's available out there, we've aggregated about a person. Yeah. But that's only half the battle. As Thomas can attest to, anyone who's gone out to prospect, you're like, great, I have a prospect, but now how do I actually get them to book a meeting with me? And that's really where the battle starts. And so from there, we actually have built these machine learning models called an F-score model that almost work like a dating algorithm, and it predicts a propensity to convert. And as a last step, we've built an entire outbound engine that can actually generate personalized outbound messages across multiple channels. And I think one of the things that you wanted to talk about and you were most excited to talk about were some of the newer features that we launched in the last couple of months that I think have truly been like massive step function improvements on the platform.
Yeah.
The two things that I think, go ahead.
I was going to say that the real game changer for me was when you added LinkedIn. And I didn't really put it together at first because I didn't realize longer view what the potential was for it. And now I can see it. And so if we could just backtrack for me anyway, to the beginning of this year, I started this effort to build a podcast, which takes a long time to get going. And I feel like I'm starting to get to a place where I'm more comfortable and the content's getting better. I mention that because within FINNY, you have the ability to embed a link to your podcast or to your content. And you can curate these very personal emails to people that within a very specific niche that you curate. And then you'll know if they're reading your emails, if they're clicking on the links, and then beyond that, if they connect with you on LinkedIn, they're going to continually see your content being poured out. And that becomes so powerful when you think about, let's say in this last campaign, I think I got 43 connections. If I do that every month with continually doing that, all of a sudden I have 500 people that are very successful, very wealthy, and it may not be the right time for them, but they're constantly seeing me. They're seeing me on LinkedIn, and maybe they're getting value. Hopefully they're getting value from the content. And so when life happens, which it does, then maybe they think of me, but I never would have connected with them otherwise. And then that just keeps compounding more over and over and over. And just like you said, voila, you have an organic growth engine. There it is. All because of these features that are running in the background, and they're saving you time, which is for me the most valuable commodity that I have. And so here's this marketing machine really that's operating continually, and it's compounding month after month after month after month. That's so exciting, and it's already led to a $5 million household that I never would have met. And he and his wife both said, you just happen to have caught us at the right time. And we hooked up with you on LinkedIn and checked out your profile. And that's how, and I never would have met them otherwise. It's just so thrilling,
That's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thomas, do you want to actually like break that out? Like specifically, like what are the actual actions you took on FINNY to get there? Like let's play back from the start. So you create an account on FINNY. How did you do that? How long did it take you? What did you do from there? Like, let's actually like break it down. Like how long did it actually take to bring this household in?
Let's go back to the campaign. The first campaign that I sent out was I let AI do the whole thing. I let it draft the emails, and that's great. But for me, I like to highlight my authenticity. I like to be personal and authentic. So I hooked up with Zach Drake. We kicked around some ideas, and he said, you know what? Let's make it all personal. Through a series of 3 emails. You draft them. We'll put the link in for the podcast. And then obviously you have the ability to connect on LinkedIn. And I mean, my open rate is like 95% on the emails. That's insane. And we're 371 households. And, I think the click rate was like 15%, which is amazing as well, and then of course, all the connections that I made. And so, once I think it was the first email that went out, and there was a series of 3. So the first one went out, and he connected with me on LinkedIn. Like he sent me a message on LinkedIn. He was like, I checked out your profile. I'm in the peninsula. Can we have a conversation with my wife? And, and it was immediate. It was literally the next, I think 2 days later, I got on a Zoom call with him, and he connected all of his accounts through Right Capital. He sent me 3 years of tax returns, and I put them in a HOSTA plan. And so I had all this really amazing, value add before our meeting. And so, and again, how long would that have taken me I never would have found him otherwise. But I mean, any other strategy out there would have taken so much more time. and it didn't happen.
So do you want to, tell me about like what you put into FINNY? What did you search for? Who was your niche that you were targeting? And like, why do you think that it was so quick? Like, was this person going through Money in Motion event? Like what were you searching for originally? And like, how long did you actually spend putting that campaign together?
Yeah. So I'll tell you exactly what the campaign was, but with him, he had a meeting with an advisor, and the advisor got fired. And so I happened to have caught him at that absolute perfect time. And that's how the ball got rolling. The campaign that just finished actually yesterday. Okay, so they're 45 to 65 years old. They're C-suite. It's $1 million or more in net worth, which is the Bay Area. That's insane. Of course, that's not hard to capture. But they were executives in tech. So that was just the kind of the broad demographic for that particular campaign. And so, so I had 93% open rate, 2% reply rate, 20 clicks for my podcast, which means they're watching my podcast, and 1 client. But that's 1 month. That's 1 month though. Yeah.
So to break it down, like you basically spend, it sounds like probably like in total an hour or an hour and a half, including Zach Drake, who's works in our team with us and is our success rep, who's incredible. You spend like about an hour putting this campaign together. And so that includes like finding potential prospects, adding them to a campaign, actually designing the entire campaign and launching it out. And then once it's live, you didn't really need to log back into FINNY, right? Like you just, the responses came to your LinkedIn, they came to your Outlook. Like you actually probably had to log in less than, 2 hours all in to actually to get this new client. So it really ran in the background for you.
Yeah, but I was so blown away with like the change from when it was AI generated to me writing it personally to then having this LinkedIn layer. So I was checking it all the time because I couldn't believe that they were connected, like the people were responding so much better to it. And it just felt like, this is how you do it. And because, I've been with FINNY for a long time, and, it's changed so much and it's grown so much. And in the beginning, you couldn't embed your content, but I was building content. Like that's been my focus for this year, is building building content through this podcast. And I know I just believed that was going to pay dividends at some point, but I didn't know that I'd be able to leverage something like FINNY to do that. And so those two things together, it's just really exciting to be able to do that and save time.
Right? Yeah. Absolutely. That's so awesome. And so you've now, beyond just getting this one client, you have all these new LinkedIn connections that now are going to see your podcast. And then when it's their right time, you'll be top of mind for them, right? And so it's just, even though like you got one massive conversion, you actually have built goodwill and built a warming up a pipeline basically of all these other people directly in your niche who eventually will convert too, right?
Which and so you have the ability to obviously find a particular niche of very successful people. And of course, you're not going to get all, that it's never going to be a huge number, but you have to think like longer term, like how does this compound over time? And so as long as I'm consistently delivering valuable content to them and they're seeing it, at some point you have to imagine a large percentage of them, are going to go through a life event. And that could only mean that they're going to think about, well, who do I go for? Where do I go for help? And if you've been in front of them enough, then, you have a good chance of meeting them at the right time and, meeting them where they are, right? Instead of, and you would never know that if you didn't have a connection through LinkedIn and you didn't have content that you were pushing out all the time. So those two things are really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so are you going to be launching other campaigns? What's in store next?
So I have a meeting with Zach coming up, and we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to find a different demographic, and we're going to do the exact same thing over and over. And I'm going to keep doing it every single month. And the only thing I would ask is it ever going to be possible to run more than one campaign at one time?
Yep, that's a good question. Yeah. And the answer is yes. So with FINNY, and this is more helpful for anyone listening that isn't super familiar with FINNY. FINNY can send out campaigns across email, LinkedIn, and soon, which is in beta right now, AI voicemails as well. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to play with that yet, but it's in beta. And so you'll be able to kind of automatically and run campaigns and reach out to prospects across all those channels. Mm-hmm. The limiting factor on that right now is on email, we send up to 100 emails per day. That's really just to make sure your domain doesn't, we're being really, really safe with your domain. And on LinkedIn, we're just maxing out the total number of connections or friend requests or messages you can send out on the platform, depending on your LinkedIn tier. And so if you have the basic tier, that's going to be a certain amount depending on your profile, or if you have LinkedIn Premium or Sales Navigator, all those things will unlock more and more access. You can actually currently run multiple campaigns on FINNY as long as they stay within the threshold of those numbers. And so if you wanted to run 2 concurrent campaigns, each with 50 emails per day, for example, you could do that right now. Mm-hmm. You just need to be mindful of those limits. However, long term, and I'm just thinking long term, Q4 of this year, so in the next couple of months, we're actually going to be adding the ability to add multiple emails. And then, of course, if you wanted to boost up the LinkedIn, you could just upgrade your LinkedIn subscription tier as well. And then you can just increase the threshold of or increase the output that you're running through the platform.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And it's exciting because multiple campaigns at the same time. So you're just limited by the number of emails that can go out at any right now at any one time. And so I got it. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So long term, it's like if you end up connecting multiple email domains, then that limitation will obviously increase significantly.
Yeah. Wow. That's going to be fun. Um, So I'm a huge fan of organic growth, and I have a very healthy dislike for inorganic growth, be it through these referral programs at discount brokerage firms or firms that are just going out there buying practices and monetizing clients, and then just to get on the Barron's 100 list or whatever. And so something like this and the potential for this for me as a business owner that's really trying to promote a platform like Altruist, my only custodian that is interested in helping only me. It doesn't compete against me, and being able to do that through a platform where I'm reaching a targeted audience to do it is really really exciting. So, I mean, thank you for building this platform.
No, thank you for using it. This is like truly when we set out to build FINNY, like we could only dream of someone seeing success like this. And this was like really our North Star was like, how could we if we could make someone's life even a little bit better, then we've succeeded in our mission. And so like to hear success stories like yours, where you've brought on like a client like that truly can like change the trajectory of a practice. They can bring on the rest of their network, for example, and like $5 million client. If you can do that a couple more times a year, like that's very, very significant, obviously.
Oh yeah.
And so this is exactly what we build this for. And so it's for people exactly like you, business owners, don't have 100 hours a day to spend prospecting, don't have entire marketing teams they can just outsource this to. But it's the people who your most valuable resource is the time, the hours in the day. And like the last thing you wanted to do was spend 8 hours of that just writing cold emails or adding people on LinkedIn or researching prospects when you could be doing a million other things like serving your clients better, right?
Yeah. So I've heard you talk about this idea of $1 billion advisor, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I had Jason Wenk on as my first guest a couple of weeks ago, and we talked briefly about that and how his firm, the tech stack that they have, will allow for that once these agentic assistants start to become more prevalent. And so the potential for that could change the entire industry, because if you're $1 billion advisor and you're producing $10 million a year and taking home $6 million, whatever, then why would you ever want to work for a big firm? Why would you want to work for a wirehouse? Why would you want to do anything other than that when you can have your time? You own all of your time. And so becoming efficient with that time is everything, because all of those assistants will allow you to manage a huge book of business by yourself and do it efficiently without sacrificing your service. So it's helping you manage your time better. And that's exactly what FINNY does with marketing, is that it actually saves you so much time. And that is the most valuable, commodity, because if you can own your time and manage it efficiently and hopefully help people without hurting them, which is what I'm trying to do, then that's a great life. That's a great life. It really is. And you're creating this amazing legacy where you're helping people, and you're not at a wirehouse giving up half your revenue and having to deal with all these conflicts. You're just really out there doing really great work for clients and helping them. So
yeah, I think we're both totally aligned to the idea that the best way to serve Americans with great financial advice is through the way that you're doing it, which is like independent fiduciary advice, right? And it's and not at the wirehouses. And I think I recently was looking at the Cerulli report that came out for the last year, and there's about a 13% growth in the RIA segment right now, like 13% by headcount, and you're seeing that coming from the wirehouse and the IBD channels, which is super interesting. And I think the reason for that is that the tech is getting better and better to enable and support that people to leave and start their own businesses, very much like yourself, to then serve their clients better. And so all the advisors that truly want to serve their clients in the most conflict-free way, and then build their own businesses and also own all the upside of that business as business owners, now can do that in a much, I would say, like easier way than maybe 10 years ago. And that bar that difficulty is actually going to decrease. And I think the altruists of the world are playing a part to that. I would like to think that the FINNYs of the world are playing a part, and we'll keep building more and more, to your point, agentic workflows to help take work off the advisor's plate. I think the biggest insight that we've had since building, and probably Jason and Altruist would say the same thing, is advisors don't need another tool to add to their toolkit that's going to take more time and another tool for them to learn and have to like dedicate time to and remember to use at the end of the day. They want work to be taken off their plate, right? Like work is your most, as a business owner, I'm a business owner, the most valuable resource I have is my time. And
Absolutely.
so like long-term vision for FINNY is, what are some of those other workflows that we can own? What are some other things, processes that bog you down and you spend too much time on that we can actually just automate, similar to how we've done with prospecting, to enable the $1 billion solo RIA?
Yeah, I think it's a game changer. It's not just a, pie in the sky kind of, thing. I think that, there's going to be, a $1 billion advisor within the next 5 years. I believe that. There's probably, once you get to like 250 million as a solo advisor, you're kind of maxing out. Like you just like the time, you just don't have enough of it. And once that, a platform like Altruist matures and can get you there, and people see that, the incentive to do that rather than to stay in this old archaic world, this broker dealer world, is going to be very powerful. And so it's going to be really fun to see how you guys grow and you guys mature along with that, because it's already paid dividends for me. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, I know. I'm super excited. And on that topic, I would say like the next, so prospecting will always be like our bread and butter. But I think a lot of the areas that we're seeing a lot of help, or like we're building towards now too, is other ways that you can grow organically, right? So organic growth is bringing on net new clients, but it's also growing share of wallet amongst your existing client base. And it's also retention, and it's also encouraging referrals, right? Mm-hmm. And so like what I spend a lot of time thinking about is what else can we build to help with your organic growth engine, which is outside of prospecting net new clients. So can we build tools to deepen your existing client relationship, encourage them to bring on net new assets, encourage referrals? Can we build tools to increase your retention rate and just like deepen the client relationship? And we're in a really interesting place because we actually have all this data about the clients and prospects that, like from third-party data, that advisors won't even know necessarily, right? Like we would know before anyone else if someone is getting promoted, if someone is looking up retirement planning keywords online, if someone is like recently got married, for example, or buying a home. Like all of these things are things we track and can flag before the client even has time to flag it to you. Yeah. And so enabling you, giving you tools to be more proactive with your clients, and then create custom proactive content to target them and reach out to them, instead of maybe just those generic newsletters that people use but no one reads, obviously.
Right. Yeah, I was having a conversation about these referral programs, and there is this possibility that maybe in the future advisors will be ranked, like a 5-star rating, but from clients. So they'll give them like a CPS score, right? And so, maybe there's a way that you can promote those advisors that have the highest scores, and people will, that will resonate with them, and that will help drive growth for those advisors that are out there doing the right thing. They're helping people that have that pure alignment with their clients, and they're really helping them, achieve their goals in a way that's conflict free, as much as that is a possibility. So
yeah. I like that idea. Let me push back. Let me be a little bit controversial here. Not every advisor is a good fit for every prospect. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think it's definitely, you work with people that you like, first of all, and that you get along with. Yep, I agree.
So I would say, I've met at this point, I would say hundreds, if not thousands, of advisors. Some advisors, I would say, hey, if I had the assets, or if I needed an advisor, I would definitely work with you. And some I would say, you seem awesome, but this is not my style. Like, you're not my bread and butter, right? Mm-hmm. The idea behind our F score is basically, or the idea here is that this is my mother saying, every pot has its lid. Have you heard this expression before? No. But it's basically like I think that there's an advisor out there for everyone, but there's not one advisor out there for everyone, if that makes sense. So like the idea that there would be some better advisors than others feels a little bit off to me. Obviously, like objectively, you can be a good advisor or a bad advisor, and you're a fiduciary and you have your client's best interest. But beyond that, right? You could have an advisor who has the highest satisfaction score with this group of people, but would absolutely not know the first thing about serving this other group of people.
Yeah.
And so the idea of just like having like some like stacked rank or scoring system for me is there needs to be a little bit more nuance there, where it should be something closer to, for every prospect out there, there is a ordered list of advisors who can serve them better than anyone else. But that list will look super different depending on who the prospect is.
Sure. Yeah, I was just trying to think of a way that, a referral program could be built without, putting a dollar sign on a client's head and monetizing them and selling them, because that's essentially what these discount brokerage firms do. They, you're attracted to the discount brokerage firm because it's free. And then ultimately you need help and you can stay within the retail channel, or you get sold in the institutional channel. And you probably don't even know that. And the advisors that are actually paying for these referrals haven't done the hard work of building an organic growth engine for themselves. And so they're probably not the best fit for the client, or, so there's, I hope that gets fixed.
Yeah. And like to build on top of that, like you have these firms that have essentially like grown, and to your point, like made like top fastest growing firms on the Barron's list and all these things that have grown based off these CRPs. Well, first of all, to your point, they haven't done any of the hard work involved in like actually going out, defining a niche, like refining your value proposition, your offerings to actually attract the clients. Mm-hmm. But second of all, that's like super risky from a practice management perspective, right? Like if you are not, like you tell your clients all the time, you have to diversify, but if you're not diversifying yourself as a business owner and you're just reliant on one source of growth, what happens when Fidelity or Schwab decide to kick you out of the program?
Yeah.
Decide that, that stream that they're offering you, now they're going to serve in-house. And there goes your growth, and you haven't had to do the hard work of actually figuring out, how to attract clients yourself. And you went from growing 25% year over year to zero overnight.
Yeah, and they can do that without cause. They can kick you off without any, and sometimes without even telling you why. Yeah, you can just get kicked off, and there goes all that entire client base. And it's it's deep within that contract that they own the client. So you've just destroyed your business. And so I have done it the hard way. I've grown organically, and I'm over the past 12 months, it's gotten to a really fun place. But before that, it really wasn't fun. And I think that's the price you pay, is that you have to survive that. And then once you get to a point where you've built a really successful business, it is with clients that really like you, and it's a very rewarding business, as it should be. And you don't have that operational risk of a custodian kicking you off their platform like you have with, take your pick. Right.
Yep. And yeah, exactly. And I'll even push this like one step further. Even if you have a secure spot on one of the referral programs and you're growing like crazy, if you want to bring out outside investors and actually monetize that growth, and bring in, for example, a private equity backer, they're going to open your books and they're going to see that like, oh, you're growing a top line this amazing amount, but like that's really expensive growth, and it's highly risky growth, and it's non-diversified. So you're not going to get the same multiples that you would have gotten for your business than if you had done the really hard thing with what you're doing on building a self-sufficient growth engine that's not reliant on some third parties. And so not only is it risky, it's also just less lucrative from like a business, like of enterprise value perspective, because people are not going to give you that same credit as if you just did it yourself and did the hard thing.
Yeah. I would say the same thing for RIAs that are buying practices as well, because you don't have that internal culture that you have. Like, say, with Josh Brown, their firm is like, they have that they calls it a filter, not a funnel. And so you have that, that internal culture, which is so unique, that other firms that have grown from 250 to 10 billion lack. They don't have it. And you can see that, in the way that they present themselves, you can just see it. So yeah, it's the harder way to go, but I think that you have better relationships with your clients, because they see you in a different light. They see you're much more authentic. That's been my experience. I've had clients for, 15 years. And, when I finally got to the Ultras platform and became an owner, there was a sea change in the way that I was, in the way I presented myself. And it led to much deeper relationships with my clients, which is what I talk about on the podcast. So all of that's, all a part of the hard journey, but the rewarding one, for sure.
Yeah. I would almost, I totally agree. I would almost compare it to advisors who historically were just reliant on referrals. It's similar to the referral programs in the sense that Like if you just relied on like your network and your existing client base to send you and like be more passive, you probably never had to build a niche either. Where if you inherited a book or just built a book based off your network and then kind of grew it linearly or just more passively, those people are always like, when they come to FINNY, they say, well, I don't have a niche. I've never needed one before. And the answer to that is, yeah, but you've never actually wanted to be more proactive with your growth. If you're just, referrals are a great source of growth, but if that's the only one you want to rely on, you don't need to define a niche. You don't have to go out and create content, right? Like you can probably get grow low single digit growth year over year just from referrals and serving your clients really well. But if it's the advisors that have a bit more ambition and want to grow beyond those low single digits or just maintaining, that's when you have to go out, start finding a niche, just, and figuring out how you can serve that niche.
Yeah. I think that what I've found is that because I've worked in so many different parts of this industry and I've suffered through so many different conflicted business models, that once I was free from that, it's like you get a different kind of motivation, a different kind of drive, and it's like you find your voice again. It's like you haven't had it before because you've been under the pressure from a parent company to do what they want you to do rather than what you know is right to do. So and I feel like I have more potential to grow now because I have a much stronger message that I'm putting out through FINNY, because, those personalized emails are much more powerful for me anyway, because I've done, again, the harder work to build content and then I'm pushing it out. So it's just a coordinated effort, but it's just so much more fulfilling to do it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna respect your time. I cannot thank you enough for obviously building the platform. It's going to be a game changer for me, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So thank you very much. And thank you for taking the time today.
Appreciate it. I got to talk about my two favorite topics. So this is great. We were talking before the podcast, but this is all I think about are these two distinct topics. And so when you messaged me and you're like, should we film a session on this? I was like, yeah, someone finally wants to hear what I think about all day. This is great. Yeah. So I appreciate it.
It's been awesome. And let's do it again. Let's do it again in 3 months, and I'll have a bunch of more success stories to share.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay. Thank you so much, Thomas. This was awesome.
You got it. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Behind the Curtain Finance. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.manettawealth.com or give us a call at 415-640-2121. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Manetta Wealth. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Copyright 2025. This content, which contains security-related opinions and/or information, is provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon in any manner as professional advice or as an endorsement of any practices, products, or services. There can be no guarantees or assurances that the views expressed here will be applicable for any particular facts or circumstances and should not be relied upon in any manner. You should consult your own advisors as to legal, business, tax, and other related matters concerning any investment. The commentary in this post, including any related blog, podcasts, videos, and social media, reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of the Manetta Wealth Management employees providing such comments and should not be regarded as the views of Manetta Wealth Management LLC or its respective affiliates, or as a description of advisory services provided by Manetta Wealth Management or performance returns of any Manetta Wealth Management investments client. References to any securities or digital assets or performance data are for illustrative purposes only and do not constitute an investment recommendation or offer to provide investment advisory services. Charts and graphs provided within are for informational purposes solely and should not be relied upon when making any investment decision. Past performance is not indicative of future results. The content speaks only as of the date indicated. Any projections, estimates, forecasts, targets, prospects, and/or opinions expressed in these materials are subject to change without notice and may differ or be contrary to opinions expressed by others.